Good afternoon, everybody. New video today. Slightly different topic from what I normally cover in my videos, but I have been asked on a number of occasions how Brexit has affected the aviation industry. Now, short answer to that is it really depends who you are. Let us begin with the most obvious change as a result of Brexit, and that is the fact that the United Kingdom has left EASA. EASA being the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, which is essentially the EU of aviation. Under EASA, pilots with a licence from one EASA member state, of which the UK previously was, could fly aircraft registered in absolutely any other of the EASA member states. Maintenance mechanics with a licence from one state could maintain aircraft registered in any other state, and indeed EASA operators, so EU-based companies, could operate their aircraft in any one of the member states, and they also had the right to what is called cabotage, which is where you fly between two member states that are not your own member state. So the first thing to say about this is that leaving EASA was absolutely, completely and utterly unnecessary. Only reason why it happened was because the British government decided that they could not, under any circumstances, be subject to any form of ruling by any kind of European court. So obviously when you're part of EASA, you have to have some kind of arbitration, and the arbitration obviously was part of the EU's legal framework. Consequences for pilots as a result of Brexit. As I said at the beginning, most European pilots who only fly in Europe have not really had any effect at all from Brexit. But if you are a pilot with a UK CAA issued licence, or a British passport, or worse still, a combination of both, then you are in a very complicated situation indeed when it comes to your job prospects. Why? Because as we said before, UK CAA licences are now non-EASA licences, which means that they are now only valid to fly G-Reg aircraft, and thus to operate only for British operators. It doesn't stop there, because before Brexit, the British government, bless their cotton socks, decided that they were going to wait until the very last minute before telling anybody what they were going to do. So some pilots, not really knowing what was going to happen, decided to do what is called a state of licence issue change. So essentially what they do is they apply to another EASA member state and they change their licence from that state to another member state. However, these pilots still wanted to keep the ability to work in the UK. So in order to do that, what they then had to do was to apply for a new UK licence on the back of their EASA licence, which they just got. Not only that, they had to pay once when they exchanged their licence to an EASA licence, and then they had to pay again just for the UK CAA to re-verify the fact that they had a licence, the one that they'd just given up, to get an EASA licence. So an awful lot of money being spent on pointless bureaucracy, which has helped absolutely nobody. The second biggest impact, particularly on UK pilots, is that British citizens no longer are entitled to freedom of movement. So whereas before somebody with a British passport could live anywhere in the European Union, in any of the European states, without needing any kind of visa, work permit or anything like that at all, they could just turn up and start work. Now, British citizens, if they want to get a job in a European member state, they have to first apply for a visa. Then their prospective employer has to advertise the job for a certain amount of time to make sure that a European citizen couldn't do it. And then the employer has to apply for a work permit for the person. And that is in every single different country that they work for. So let's imagine that you've got a UK passport holder applying for a job to be based in, I don't know, Barcelona with EasyJet. So he turns up for the interview, and at the same time, you've got a guy with a German licence and a German passport. Which one are they going to choose? And what really gets to me is when you raise this problem with anybody who is in favour of Brexit in general, their response is, oh, well, you know, you'll still be able to get the job if you're good enough. And, you know, it's just as easy to work in Europe now as it was before. You just have to, they generally say something along the lines of, you just have to fill in a piece of paper. Oh, you just have to fill in a form. What a complete and utter load of consequences for student pilots and flight schools. Now, the eagle-eyed of you among you will notice that I've now changed my shirt due to an unfortunate accident with some toothpaste, but the less said about that, the better. Now, consequences for flight schools and for student pilots. Now, before Brexit, the UK was a massive destination for flight training, notably for students from Europe, because when Britain was part of EASA, students could come from France, Austria, Spain, Germany, do their training in an English-speaking environment, improve their English, and up until a certain point, get a guaranteed level 6 on their licence because they did their training in a UK flight school. And it was a massive, massive business for UK flight schools, attracting students from all across Europe, because with their shiny British EASA licence, they could then go and work for any European country. That, unfortunately, is no longer the case. So flying schools in the UK have had to make a choice. Either they offer just a UK CAA licence, which for a lot of students, particularly those from Europe, is about as useful as a chocolate fireguard, or offer a dual syllabus whereby the students now have to take 2 sets of exams, pretty much identical exams, in order to get both licenses, which has also caused a lot of extra expense for flying schools having to sign deals with flight schools in Europe. And of course, there is the issue of student pilots who are undergoing their training around the kind of Brexit period, because some managed to get their EASA licence in before the cut-off and were able to get a UK licence on the back of their EASA licence. Some missed the cut-off and are now having to retake exams in the UK, the same exams as they took to get their EASA licence, and pay again to do the same things, the same exams that they already passed. Again, for absolutely no benefit whatsoever. So there we have a very quick and concise response to the question that I've been asked many times, which is, as I said at the beginning, the consequences of Brexit for the aviation industry. Now, obviously, I couldn't possibly cover absolutely everything in a very short video, but I have tried to cover the most, shall we say, striking consequences. I will also say that in terms of the restrictions that have now been brought in terms of validity of licences and freedom of movement, they don't just affect UK pilot licence holders, they affect UK examiners, they affect UK cabin crew, they affect UK mechanics, all of whom have, in order to keep their business most of the time, have had to go and do very expensive conversions of their licences and basically repeat all the exams they'd already done and which were presumably valid for life. So the whole project, as far as I can see, and as far as anyone can see, has achieved absolutely nothing as far as aviation is concerned. And it's just created an enormous load of barriers which just weren't there before, for absolutely no benefit whatsoever in return. And we now have a whole generation of young British pilots, particularly, who've had the rug pulled out from under their feet by their own government. And their spectrum of opportunities has been so narrowed for nothing other than political balderdash. Now, that's a very good word. Balderdash. Please do use that in your next ELP test, and I will guarantee you will get a level 6. In any case, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful. It's always a pleasure to read your comments, reply to your messages. Please do feel free to get in touch if you have any questions. And safe flights to all, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Bye-bye.